Welcome to the E-commerce Leader Series, the podcast dedicated to helping founders and operators navigate the world of e-commerce in the age of AI. I'm Eric Bidinger, the co-host, co-founder and CEO of Luca AI. And today it is my pleasure to welcome our guest, Alexandra Robson, the founder of Augustine Jewels. Augustine Jewels is a wonderful luxury brand that builds around craftsmanship, exceptional gemstones, and deeply personal customer experiences. Welcome.
Great. Well, thank you, Luca, for having me and Eric for interviewing me today. It's wonderful to be here. It's just great to have a fellow Stanfordite to talk to.
There you go. So for listeners who may not know Augustine Jewels, can you tell us your story and how the company first came to life, please?
Sure. Well, the company started 15 years ago, and it was really something I'd done on my gap year when I was 18. I'd studied in Paris and I'd studied jewelry design, and I'd had won various awards as an 18-year-old for jewelry design. But then I went to Cambridge and I had a whole career at Accenture. I was a partner there. I was the global lead for CRM in consumer and retail. And it was only when my children were young and it all became too much running around the world with Accenture that I then went back to my first dream and thought, right, maybe I can start my own business here. And so 15 years ago, I started it right from nothing, set up the company. And here we are sort of 15 years on. We've got stores in New York and London, and we've won quite a few awards. So it's all very exciting.
That's a fantastic origin story. Always happy to hear people who are following their passion and dream rather than jumping up the corporate ladder. On that journey, where did you, so you followed your initial passion, you wanted to build a luxury brand. When did you realize that you could jump the bridge between something that you're passionate about towards building a sustainable business?
Yeah, so I had just thought about doing a clothing business, and I just looked at it and thought, you know, the margins are too small. It's very competitive. And ultimately, I've always had a passion for gemstones. And it's a bit like doing chemistry. You know, it's a gemstone is a thing that you invest in. And we do extremely serious big gemstones as well as our ready-to-wear luxury collections. So it's something that gave a bit more opportunity and from a business point of view, as well as just being very, very beautiful and, you know, an amazing way to spend your life looking at beautiful gemstones. And, you know, it is an investing thing as well, gemstones. It's a bit like trading the stock market, but you're trading gems. So there's lots of opportunity there as well.
There you go. Don't tell that to my wife, please. She won't be watching. So luxury, it's one of those words everyone uses, but few people can define well. What does luxury actually mean to you?
So luxury is very much about personal attention. And what I've learned in building a luxury brand is obviously everything has to be right. And that is hard to do. So the product has to be perfect. The branding has to be perfect. The delivery has to be perfect. Things need to be on time. They need to be as they say they are on the website. All of that is sort of a sine qua non. That is just the basics. But then what makes it from just a business into a luxury business is the level of attention you can give to the end client. And particularly in jewelry, which is maybe the extreme version of it, you know, people, when they're spending significant sums on an engagement ring or a 30th wedding anniversary or whatever it could be, you know, that needs to be very, very personal, and they need to feel that it is very, you know, that they are being completely loved. And in order to achieve that, first of all, you have to have the right team who understand that. And that is extremely difficult to achieve. Now, there are luxury training schools. There's a very good one in Switzerland and so on. But ultimately, you can't really change somebody who doesn't get that. And they have to have a lot of empathy and listening skills and so on. And secondly, they have to have a lot of agency, because the people who are buying at that level are used to things being delivered in a certain way. So for example, today we had a client and she had written to one of my team, you know, I want it posted. So the team member posted it. But of course, the client didn't actually mean posting. She meant, I want a personal Uber sent to me. And, you know, my team member was meant to translate that.
What the first rule of communication is, it's to assume that it has taken place. So,
yeah. So I tried to explain to my team member, when she says, you know, posted, she doesn't actually mean posted.
Of course not.
So that's an example of getting under the skin of what the client, and when we work with this client a lot, and we always do Uber the finished product, and obviously they're expensive gems and so on. But there was no way my team member, I hadn't told my team member that. So there's no way that it's not a fault of my team member, but it's about getting in the head of somebody who's extremely demanding.
No, absolutely. Yeah. So whereas on the one hand, your product is not forever, but intemporal. I mean, it's you know, supposed to last for a very long time. On the other hand, do you feel that the meaning of luxury has changed in the last 10 years? And if it has changed, do you see a segmentation between, for example, how young people are looking at it versus not so young people?
We do see a difference. I think luxury has changed a lot in the last 10 years. First of all, I think luxury is, I want it now, and I want to be the furthest ahead and on fashion and so on. Jewelry is slightly different because all of our pieces are made to last for generations. And we have two parts to our business. We have the ready-to-wear business, where we make jewelry that is on trend and inspired by different luxury destinations, and it goes from about $300 to $5,000. So and that is done so that people can keep on refreshing their luxury and their look, and they can make themselves feel good and feel different. And I think there is an element of luxury that is like that is just much more in the now. Yeah. But then, because we do very expensive things as well in our bespoke service, I think luxury, let's call it ultra luxury, is again a very different business, in that that's where people want extreme attention, extreme detailing. And I mean, all of our pieces are hallmarked by the UK Assay Office. We have our own mark, which is stamped on the jewelry. We keep a register of all those pieces. They're one-offs. They'll never be repeated for anybody else. And, you know, the gemstones that we're finding are all incredible gems. They're all investable gems. They're going to go up in value. So there are really two markets, I'd say, ultra luxury and luxury, and they are quite different.
Very interesting. Am I right into saying that jewelry is one of the most emotional purchases that people can make?
I think so. I think so. I mean, I think it's it's often a very emotional thing because people are buying. So, for example, we've just done a bespoke ring. So she's made a ring with one stone for each grandchild. And, you know, it's a very beautiful thing to be part of. Obviously, we do lots of engagement rings. We've had one poor chap in the last few weeks. He designed the most incredible ring. We made this out of this world ring. It was incredible. Anyway, he proposed. She said yes. Thank God, that was all good. But she said she didn't like the ring. And she just wanted a boring solitaire.
Okay.
And so we had to redo the whole thing, but and obviously it's what she wants, so that's fine. But he was a little bit devastated. But you know, I am always dealing with emotional moments in people's lives, and you know, that tends to be weddings, wedding anniversaries, proposals, marking big things like bonus time. We do a lot of bonus ring, particularly for powerful women, and they will purchase rings, big rings with their bonus, which I think, you know, gemstones give you a lot of emotion themselves. They can make you feel powerful. They can make you feel happy. They can make you feel, you know, calm. And these high-powered women are actually relying on gemstones and particularly rings, because of course a ring is something that the woman enjoys, she's looking at it.
Right.
Whereas earrings is something everybody else enjoys because everybody else is looking at it.
Right.
So powerful women tend to buy rings for themselves. So what I'm saying, and it's a reward maybe for a tough year at some bank or something. So yes, I'm always dealing with highly emotional moments, but that also has the flip side that it's a compulsive buy, and that you can see a gemstone and you will remember that gemstone, and it gets lodged in some part of your gut or your head, and you cannot get it out of your head. And I find, obviously, it's dangerous for me because I'm working with so many beautiful gemstones. I fall in love, twice a week. But there is something very primeval about a gemstone that touches some sort of emotional level, in the same way that a beautiful piece of music or a beautiful piece of art can touch it. So I think jewelry is particularly emotional.
Right, absolutely. Second time now in this episode that I should say, please don't talk to my wife.
Please get her to come. Yeah, you can come and talk to us without her knowing, and then.
What role does trust play in the buying journey? I think that's something that our audience is going to be particularly interested in.
Yeah. Trust is very important, and increasingly, obviously, people want to know the ethical basis of it and the source of the gemstone. So when we are buying any stone, we always know the source. So we know whether it's come from Sri Lanka or Brazil, or these are big gemstone centers, or India. We have a workshop in Jaipur in India. So we always know the source. We also will provide a certificate. So for any serious diamond or sapphire or emerald, you should really have a GIA certificate. Those are the best certificates. But there are plenty of other labs for lesser stones that we can take them to just make sure to certify them. But obviously, I'm working with gemstone dealers who've been dealing in gems for generations. I totally trust them, and I have to trust them. But the client might also want to have, a lab check it out. And so people have to trust us, and they can trust us, and we're 100% trustworthy. But just so that everybody knows, we do significant, checks on everything, as I say, through a lab. And then I think today, obviously the big debate in our industry is between lab diamonds and natural diamonds. And the argument is, one argument's been made is that lab diamonds are more ethical, and because you're not actually using labor to mine. But on the other hand, the lab diamond takes a lot of energy to make. So what happens is you take a little bit of carbon and you compress it to mimic the millions of years that a diamond would be under pressure in geology. So they are structurally, if you put them under a microscope, they're both the chemical element C for carbon, and they will look identical. So they are, to all intents and purposes, the same thing. And the only way you can tell the difference is by the trace elements and with a huge microscope. So you can still tell the difference. So under a microscope. So any diamond that we would have, the certificate will say whether it's a lab or whether it's a natural. So, but all I'm saying is that the ethics are not quite as clear cut as, some people prefer natural because it is natural, it comes out of the earth, and other people prefer lab because they feel it hasn't been mined. So it just depends on where you're sort of sitting on that spectrum. From an investment point of view, a natural diamond will go up in value, especially colored diamonds, because the labs just are obviously not the same. But from a enjoyment point of view, why not? We're doing lots of lab diamonds and they're fun. And it means you can, to our point earlier about the luxury versus the ultra luxury, the luxury business, why not have a different lab for every day of the week, but they are coming down in value.
Right. Yeah.
Because everybody's working out how to do it. More and more people are working. So the market's saturated and they're coming down, but they're very beautiful. So this is the type of thing in trust, I just need to understand where people are coming from in terms of what they're looking for. And then they have to trust me that what they're getting is lab checked and safe and exactly what they've asked for.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Different angle on the same question. So historically, I would say that I would posit that many luxury purchases are done in store. You're also selling online. And so how do you build that trust and that personal relationship with an online purchasing journey?
Yeah, yes. So I think that is all to do with building the brand. And obviously people are seeing our brand and we now have a lot of followers and we're going constantly to different events, such as Ferrari events, Rolls-Royce events, horse riding events, boat events, and so on. So people are seeing us, the same group. The ultra luxury market is very, very small. And so the same group of people are seeing us at the same event after event after event. And so I think that is one way of building trust through events. But secondly, your website has to, show those brand values and make sure that people trust. Thirdly, you have to have a very clear returns policy. So we actually allow 30-day returns, for example, from our website. But our finding is that up to about $5,000, people are happy to buy online.
And then after that,
they need to see it.
Yeah.
Depends on the person, obviously, but we don't see many online sales beyond $5,000. Obviously, we're still a small brand. I understand that Net-a-Porter and they do sell up to 50,000 online, but I still think a lot of those people will have actually seen the product.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That makes sense. Fascinating. Can we switch gears a little bit and talk about you, Alexandra, as the leader of the company, the founder and CEO? Am I right?
Yes.
Yes. Behind the scene, so how do you today operate the business? Like, what's your day-to-day looking like, and what kind of tools are you relying on to take the decisions that you're taking on a daily, weekly, monthly basis?
Yeah. Okay. So day in the life of Alexandra. The morning starts every morning with a design meeting. I'm still very involved in the design. And for that, I talk to my head of production. At the moment, we have about 70 bespoke pieces on the go. So we will actually go through, it takes about an hour, we go through every piece and we update on which of our men is making it and how we are with it and so on. And so that is the first thing. Then the sort of online part of the business, Shopify is our back end. And the online orders, that is actually pretty automated now, in the sense that I don't really have to get that involved in it. My team, the product comes in, they quality check it, and they're able to fulfill it. On the design point of view, we use AI to design now, and we use a particular design add-on. And we've done a lot of research between all the different AI agents, and we think we've found the one that we like the best. But I mean, it's incredible what we can do. When I started the business 15 years ago, I used to hand draw the big designs for clients. It took me about 4 hours. I do beautiful drawings. I can do beautiful drawings, but nobody wants them. People used to ask for them, and I used to sign them, and I have originals, but nobody's interested. It takes us, we can just dream up these things in AI, and they look, from a customer point of view, it's fantastic because they can see what they're going to look like, and then we can tweak it. So from a design point of view, we're using, as I say, an AI agent, and then from there we go to CAD. We're working to 1/100th of a millimeter in CAD. And from there, we 3D print sometimes, and sometimes we make by hand. It depends on the object. And then in terms of other tech that we're using, after I finished the design meeting, and then on to marketing, and we're using marketing across pretty much all social media. We're doing Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest. We don't do TikTok because our market is sort of 30 years plus.
Right.
And we haven't set up a TikTok shop yet. We are thinking about it, but all the evidence is that our customer base is too old. And you really have to stay on top of that marketing, because you have to tweak it and see what's working, what's not. And then we also have an SEO touch point, pretty much looking at the SEO as well. We perform very well on SEO. And again, we use SEMrush to do that. The technology we use is SEMrush.
Fantastic. I mean, it's quite unlike many of our previous podcast guests, which are brands which are much less vertically integrated than you. You go from design, manufacturing, distribution, after sale service. Quite a lot of our either podcast guests or clients are Luca don't have that vertical integration at the back end. It feels like your business is more complex to manage. And one interesting question for me would be, what do you think has become harder as you've grown the company?
Yes, it's an interesting question, because actually suddenly everything's getting easier, not harder. In the sense that AI is a massive help to us, in the sense that, you know, we have a very big workshop in Jaipur. It all works pretty smoothly. And you know, what's become harder? I mean, obviously the tariffs were a big problem for us. Going into the US, and so at one point the tariffs were 50% from India into the US. And going up from 10%, so that was obviously impossible. And then another problem for our business is the gold price. With the war, the gold price. So there have been specific things that have made the business harder. But I think and the other thing that's changed is that as you get bigger, obviously as a business, you're able to attract more talent. When you're a small business and you're starting out, nobody really bright wants to work for you. And now we have at least a person a day coming into store in London with their CV.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
And they're all super. You know, 10 years ago, I would have died to have any of those people.
Right.
But,
exactly.
So the recruiting becomes easier. So it's sort of a virtual circle. Once you get to a certain level, it gets easier.
Yeah.
I think what's maybe hard for me now is thinking, do I want to open in Miami would be my next target, and how much strain do I want to take on? Because obviously taking the business to the next level is a strain for the founder. But in terms of the daily running of the business, I would say as you get established, everything gets easier.
That's very interesting, actually. That's it's not a universal comment that we hear.
Yes.
Good for you. You said something interesting earlier. You said because I mean, thanks to AI, things are getting simpler. So besides AI in design, how else are you deploying AI internally?
Well, we use it a lot, funny enough, on legal questions, copyright questions, all of those complex questions that used to involve finding a lawyer and working it out. So, for example, we had somebody who stole our entire website, all of our images, all of our product, and set up their own website with our product. And that is the type of thing. And clients didn't even realize, they would call up and say, we can see you're 50% off. And we're like, no, we're not. Where have you, and even though the website looks completely different, they weren't clocking it. And that's the type of thing that in the past, you would have had to hire a very expensive lawyer. You would have had to, blah, blah, blah. In this case, you just, put it into Claude, and a minute later you've got the answer. And I was actually able to bring it down myself within a few weeks. So we use it on legals. We use it for business planning, to put in business plans and so on. And we sort of get it to check our marketing and get its opinion. But actually, I personally haven't managed to find it that useful on that yet. But maybe I'm missing something. Maybe one of your listeners would have an answer to that.
I'm sure they will. I will talk. We'll talk later about the the community that we're building, and would love to have you join and actually ask the question and see whether someone can help you with that, one of your peers.
That would be great. So yeah, we are using it broadly in AI, but I'd say the biggest change for us is in design, because we can just come up with 5 different ideas and they look beautiful 1 second later, you know.
Exactly, and especially for you, right? Because it's such a, each piece is so unique, and the personalization aspect of it is intrinsic to the piece.
Yeah.
Being able to iterate so fast as opposed to drawing it by hand. I mean,
and it looks so beautiful, you know. It just looks amazing. What you know, whereas my hand drawings were nice, but you know, they weren't that nice.
I think you're not giving yourself enough credit for that. What's the biggest lesson you've learned building Augustine Jewels?
People.
Mm-hmm.
Hiring the right people.
Mm.
It's all about the talent that you hire and the finding. And I think I've been, in the early days, I was too sort of nice. I kept on thinking, oh, this person, you know, I'm going to train this person and eventually they're going to get there. And my experience now after 15 years is that people is when you have somebody who's got it, everything hums.
Yeah.
The whole business hums, and it's just so much easier. And you can put enough, so much training and wait for people to get it. But actually, if they're not getting it within week 1, you should just cut there and then.
You know what the adage is, right? If there's a doubt, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
We're so good at creating narrative as to why we should give those people a second chance and a third chance and a fourth chance, because it's less painful to do that than to actually cut the cord.
Exactly. So I think that's my key learning, because, you know, I think I wasted a lot of time on that.
Yeah.
And I think the second thing is to maybe be more ambitious earlier.
Okay.
It took me a while to open up the New York store, and that's been completely transformational for us. And I think you've got to get your mindset away from a small business to building a global brand.
There you go. Would that be advice that you'd give to your younger self 15 years ago?
Yes. Think about how you're going to build, which I did think about. I always wanted to build a global brand, but I thought of myself as a small business. And it wasn't until we'd won a few awards, until you start getting, basically we have quite a fan base. And once you get that, people that really love your work, it sort of gives you the confidence. But you could actually have that confidence before. Yeah. Yeah. And so why did I wait for external validation?
Yeah. I can empathize with attention. It's not an easy one. Too much confidence to start with, and you come across as a psychopath. But I totally hear you on this. Once you have proof points, then you're thinking, geez, why wasn't I more bold? When I started, I get it. One final question for me, please. So you've helped people celebrate some of the most meaningful moments in their life with your product. What's the one thing you've learned about human decision-making that every business leader should understand?
Very interesting question. We just heard a lecture from Sundar Pichai, and he said it was lots of micro decisions in life. And, you know, that there were big decisions like who's your partner for life. And but I think this point about micro decisions is right. Every day, without realizing it, and as you age, you can look back and you can see the micro decisions that you've made. But when you're in your 20s, you're not necessarily so aware, or at least I wasn't. Maybe 20-year-olds are today, but you're not aware that you're making lots of micro decisions which are setting you on a different path. And I'm now in my 50s, and, you know, friends of mine will say things like, you know, I don't really know how I ended up here. And I've got a friend who lives on a farm in Devon and farms sheep. And well, I'm like, well, you decided to farm sheep in Devon. But she's not sort of aware of the fact that she made a whole load of decisions that led her to that point. So I think what I've learned about human nature is that people are making their own judgments every day. And most of the time, of course, because I'm getting so emotionally involved with people, and I love that side of it. I just love it, because you really get to know people well, and some people become such close friends, and you get to know everything. And sometimes you feel like saying to a woman or a man, don't marry this person. You're not right for each other. And they might be the nicest people, but you can just see that their process to decide something such as a ring, they aren't working together.
Right.
And in the future, they're going to have to decide where they send their kids to school, what they do when somebody gets sick, all these things that life hits one with. and so I think human life is about lots of micro decisions and making those decisions every day.
Exactly, because they compound, right?
Because they compound.
That's the issue. I mean, the issue. That's also the opportunity, and you have to take advantage of that.
That's right.
Yeah, that's a great way to end the episode. Alexandra, I'm super happy that you came on as a guest. I know we had some difficulties with the scheduling, but it was such a great conversation. Thank you very much. I'm very energized about this. What you've built at Augustine Jewels is amazing. Well done. I think people should definitely look up to trajectories like yours. And for our listeners, where can they find you?
Yeah, so they can find our website at www.augustinejewels.com. And I'm happy to give my email, which is alexandra@augustinejewels.com, if they want to contact me directly for a bespoke piece. I'd love to work with anybody listening to find you the perfect gemstone and make the perfect bespoke piece to commemorate whatever occasion you're celebrating.
Fantastic. Third time now that I'm going to tell you not to talk to my wife. Thank you very much, Alexandra. That was fantastic.
Okay, thank you.
We'll see you guys on the next episode.
Okay, thank you.